NewsCenter 7 presentation from WHIO TV.
Through the marvels of this great electronic age.
This storm is severe, a massive storm.
Welcome to NewsCenter 7. I'm Jim Baldridge.
In Columbus, Jim Otte.
Scheduled to be on the ground here in Bagram for only about 2 hours.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
WHIO TV celebrates 75 years, sponsored by McAfee and David Knapp Ford Lincoln.
Good evening and welcome to our 75th anniversary celebration.
Over the next hour, we are taking a look back at the impact WHIO has had over the past 7.5 decades.
It was February 1949. Harry S. Truman was just beginning his second term as president. Hank Williams' Lovesick Blues was playing brand new and on Dayton radio.
And downtown Dayton was bustling with shoppers at Wright's department store. Welcome Stadium, still under construction. And Dayton's very first television station started broadcasting.
WHIO TV Channel 7. Well, no, actually we debuted as Channel 13, and that is where our story begins.
February 23rd, 1949.
This is WHIO Television.
And with that, Dayton's first TV station, Channel 13, came to life, but on an experimental basis. Our home was a brand new building at 1414 Wilmington Avenue. Cornfields surrounded the place. Our tower stood almost 520 feet tall. WHIO's first program was grainy, black and white, and was a local Golden Gloves boxing match. At the time, cable had not yet made it to Dayton, so WHIO produced its own live local program.
It's jumping time on the Kenny Roberts Show. Are you all raring to go, kid?
Kenny Roberts Show was a huge hit with our viewers. Kids across the Miami Valley wanted so much to be a part of it.
In late 1949, WHIO finally got CBS network cable. That meant live shows from New York and California. This started the golden age of television. In 1952, WHIO went from Channel 13 to Channel 7. While the channel number may have changed, our connection to CBS never wavered.
In 1953, WHIO built a new tower off Germantown Street in Dayton. At the time, it was the world's tallest TV tower and the third highest man-made structure in the world, standing more than 1,100 feet in the sky. It was more powerful, so 400,000 families could see WHIO across the Miami Valley. In 1967, WHIO TV had The Big News, Dayton's first full-color 90-minute newscast with news, weather, and sports. And every night, icons like Don Wayne, Tom Hanlon, and Ed Kraling were in people's living rooms.
In 1998, WHIO joined the digital arena with our first website, WHIOTV.com. Headlines were one word, and it was updated daily with the latest news. In 2004, WHIO introduced our team of meteorologists as Storm Center 7, and just 3 years later, we debuted our new live Doppler 7 radar that was 2 minutes faster at tracking severe weather.
After spending more than 60 years on Wilmington Avenue, it was time to move to something bigger, better, and modern. In 2010, after more than a year of planning, WHIO loaded up the moving trucks and headed to South Main Street.
For the final time, we are going to sign off from here at 1414 Wilmington Avenue.
Our new building gave us more space and better technology to provide you coverage you can count on.
We're moving to get into a new place to have some new technology. High-definition television is coming your way tomorrow night here on NewsCenter 7.
After the last newscast at 11 p.m., the lights went out in our old broadcast studio one last time. 5 hours later, we were on air for NewsCenter 7's Daybreak from our new studio with a brand new set. That set would go on to be the backdrop for thousands of newscasts until 2016, when we unveiled our new look, the one we know today.
Of course, news is central to our mission, and that's why we call ourselves NewsCenter 7.
And for 7.5 decades, we brought you the biggest news stories impacting the Miami Valley. As Cheryl McHenry shows us, sometimes that coverage even took us overseas.
WHIO. The headline of the hour.
Never anchored to the desk, Don Wayne flew to Vietnam in the 60s to talk to local troops.
When we first came here, we didn't have electric, and lately we've been bring in generators. We even have movies sometimes at night.
4, 3.
That same decade, Wayne interviewed Wapakoneta native Neil Armstrong before he became the first man on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for
And in
man.
1981, the veteran anchor stood on a cold tarmac in West Germany, waiting for 52 U.S. hostages to arrive from Iran after 444 days in captivity. Among them, Daytonian Steve Lauterbach. Here at home, 1985 saw 5 family members shot to death in their Dayton home, their killer sent to death row. July 1986, NewsCenter 7 covered the Miamisburg train derailment. A car filled with phosphorus ruptured and caught fire, pouring plumes of thick white smoke into the air and forcing some 30,000 people from their homes.
You really need to go there and get out of Miamisburg. It's really not safe here.
1992 brought the Christmas thrill killings. A group of 4 young people went on a crime spree, killing 6 people at random. In 1994, anchor Jim Baldridge went back to Vietnam and visited a soup shop popular with GIs during the war that also served as enemy headquarters.
Because of my emotions, I could not accept a bowl of his famous soup.
World leaders met at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in 1995, where they negotiated the Dayton Peace Accords, ending the 3.5-year Bosnian War. Former President Bill Clinton visited Wright-Pat on the 20th anniversary of the agreement.
An unjust peace is more just than continuing death.
Erica Baker became a household name in 1999 when she went missing while walking her dog in Kettering. A man later admitted he hit her with his van and buried her somewhere. Her parents still hold out hope her remains will be found.
Being able to get her put to rest, that is closure.
And remember this? In November '99, our cameras captured all angles as Dayton's Wright's department store was imploded. And in March 2003, the Schuster Performing Arts Center opened where Wright's once stood. Downtown's transformation continued in 2000 with professional baseball coming to town. The Dayton Dragons took the field for the first time and continue to break records for attendance. We were all on high alert after the terror attack on 9/11/2001, which killed about 3,000 people at the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon in D.C., and on a plane that crashed in rural Pennsylvania. As the birthplace of aviation, Dayton took time out in 2003 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of powered flight with the weeks-long Inventing Flight Festival. The U.S. was at war in the Middle East, and in 2004, James Brown flew with the 445th Airlift Wing based at Wright-Pat to Baghdad to pick up wounded troops from Iraq. Just over a decade later, I flew with the reservists to deliver supplies to our troops in Afghanistan.
We're scheduled to be on the ground here in Bagram for only about 2 hours, just long enough to refuel the plane, load and unload cargo and troops, and get back in the air before sunrise.
Dayton's era of building automobiles came to an end in late 2008 when the last SUV rolled off the assembly line at the GM truck plant in Moraine. No one's ever been charged in the 2018 disappearance of Cheryl Coker from Riverside, though her remains were found in Greene County 18 months later.
Start downtown towards the Oregon District 99.
Dayton joined the list of cities marred by a mass shooting on August 4th, 2019, when a gunman opened fire in the crowded Oregon District, killing 9 people and injuring more than 24 others. Had police not taken him down quickly, many more would have died. 3 months later, beloved Dayton Police Detective George Del Rio was shot to death as he entered a suspected drug house as part of a DEA task force. Early 2020 brought the COVID-19 pandemic, and we covered all aspects as fear of the rapidly spreading virus closed businesses and schools, having a lasting impact on children and killing or hospitalizing thousands in Ohio and across the country. The summer of 2022 saw 3 police officers shot in our area. Clear Creek Township officer Eric Ney survived being shot in the face, but later had to retire. Clark County Deputy Matt Yates was gunned down in July as he responded to a Sunday morning call at a mobile home park.
I feel as if...
And Richmond Canine officer Sierra Burton suffered a fatal gunshot wound during a traffic stop in August and died weeks later. She was just 28. In April 2023, fire at a Richmond, Indiana plastics facility burned for days, and people within a 3-mile radius were evacuated. The multi-million-dollar cleanup started in November and will take months to complete.
People you've met on WHIO TV over the years may feel like old friends. After all, you've invited these familiar faces into your living room for some of our community's most important stories.
Storytellers, investigators, hard news reporters, and weather experts. These are the hardworking people that have become an integral part of Dayton history.
These are the iconic faces you have come to know so well.
WHIO. To those among our television audience, I thank you for your loyalty and...
When WHIO went on the air in 1949, Don Wayne was on the desk. Known as the Walter Cronkite of Dayton, Wayne spent 47 years at WHIO.
I'd watched Don Wayne growing up in Lima, Ohio. So meeting Don was a really big moment in my life.
Jim Baldridge inherited the anchor chair when Wayne retired in 1988.
I'm glad to have been a part of it, but there is life after television.
Wayne died in 1997 at the age of 75.
Don was a gentleman every time. I never saw him angry at anyone at any time. He was a well-disciplined professional.
WHIO weather specialist Gil Whitney is credited with saving lives. In 1974, Whitney broke into programming to warn Xenia residents to take immediate cover. A tornado was heading their way.
This storm is severe, a massive storm.
Whitney died in 1982 at the age of 42 of lymphoma. Raised in Lima, Ohio, Jim Baldridge joined WHIO in 1972 as a reporter. The next 3 decades would take the Army veteran to the anchor desk and special assignments across the globe.
WHIO sent me all over the world, to Asia and to Europe, all over Europe, Central and South America. And it was just a great time for me to be at WHIO during those years.
Baldridge retired in 2009, handing the anchor chair over to James Brown.
August 10th, 1981. Scared to death.
That's when Cheryl McHenry joined the WHIO team.
Walking in the first day, and I was awestruck by seeing Don Wayne, Jim Baldridge, Gil Whitney.
With a background in radio, Cheryl adapted quickly to TV, covering police and court beats. From murder cases to a political convention and a Super Bowl, Cheryl has covered everything. She moved to the anchor desk in the 90s.
It's Miami Valley Murder Mysteries.
And now helps families find closure and police crack cases with her Miami Valley Murder Mysteries.
It's still, after 42 and a half years, it's still an honor for me to be here.
And highlights from the Reds and the Cubs tonight at 11 o'clock.
Mike Hartsock joined WHIO in 1981 as a reporter, but found his true calling when he was named the station's sports director 8 years later.
I covered the Reds winning the World Series in 1990. I was lucky enough to cover 3 Super Bowls, the Olympics in 1996.
Known for his catchphrase, stay right there. Hartsock stayed at WHIO for 41 years. He retired in 2020.
Sun's up in the Dayton area. And so
Ken Jefferson spent 25 years at WHIO. Most of those years, he was on the anchor desk. Ken left the station in 2002. He died in 2018 after a brief illness. Ken was 65. Steve Baker's first memory of WHIO is childhood. His dad worked here too, first in sales, then the newsroom.
I would come here as a little shaver on Saturdays when he would come in for a while and sit in the main studio and watch the Uncle Lorraine Nosy the Clown show as a kid. And so, WHIO has been almost the 75 years in our family.
Baker joined the WHIO family in 1980. His passion for news often affected his real family.
I almost missed the birth of my son because I was probably out on a story.
Steve spent almost 4 decades covering news, mostly as WHIO's Northern Bureau Chief.
I was